Is Anas Sarwar a Muslim colonialist? According to GB News, yes. And they based it on this video, so let's see for ourselves.
And I think he's right when he said that we are Scots first and Pakistani second. I actually don't think we should refer to ourselves as New Scots anymore. After all these years and all these generations and after all our contributions, if we aren't just Scots by now, then I think there is a serious issue.
This is Anas Sarwar, leader of the Scottish Labour Party, addressing a dinner of Culture Asia, a group that celebrates South Asian and Muslim heritage in Scotland. Now, what do we think of what he said there? Scottish first, Pakistani second. Well, good. Yeah, I think that's excellent. Hopefully that would be, by a long, long way, Scottish first. Okay, if people of Pakistani heritage still have some sort of affection or loyalty for Pakistan, okay, maybe, but obviously, primarily, their identity and engagement and loyalty needs to be with the country where they are living. I mean, some people could argue you could throw British in there as well. Now, as generations pass, I would hope that people's sense, for example, Pakistanis' sense of connection with Pakistan would grow weaker and weaker. They still might be interested, they still might have some sort of loyalty, but it would really be dissipating as generations pass by. So as far as I'm concerned, what Anas Sarwar said so far, well, so far so good.
Please, let's think about the pandemic as an example. If it wasn't for Scotland's Pakistani community and the UK's Pakistani community, we would have had a national health service that was able to treat and save lives. We would have had a vaccination scheme that has saved generations. We would have had the food distribution and food manufacturing companies across the country. We would have had those delivery drivers across the country. We would have had those transport workers across the country. Scotland and UK's Pakistani community literally kept this country going in our darkest and most difficult moments, and we should never forget.
Well, what do we make of that? Well, there are a disproportionate number of Pakistani doctors in Britain, and the statistics are not clear, but as far as I can tell, in Scotland as well. It's a very highly paid job, and a disproportionate number of Pakistanis are in that job. Okay, I heard for UK-wide, apparently 1 in 20 Indians is a doctor. Not 1 in 20 doctors is an Indian, 1 in 20 Indians is a doctor, which is quite remarkable. Overall in the NHS workforce in Scotland, Pakistanis are underrepresented, but they're overrepresented in the most highly paid roles, basically, as doctors. Then they talked about different areas of work as well. Now, Pakistanis are about 1.3% of the population of Scotland, and my guess would be that they do about 1.3% of the work overall. So this suggestion that we wouldn't have an NHS if it wasn't for Pakistanis, well, I suggest maybe the NHS overall, remember, it's not just doctors, do all the other jobs as well. Maybe without the 1.3% of Pakistanis, maybe the NHS would be about 1.3% smaller. But obviously, let's face it, if the Pakistanis weren't here, the NHS could be 1.3% smaller because there wouldn't be as many people to serve. So what I'm trying to make out there is that any group could say, we're vital to the NHS. But if any percentage of the population disappeared, then the NHS could be that percentage smaller. So it's not really a great point to make, Anas. He talked about food distribution. Pakistanis play a key role in that. Well, yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean, if it happens to be a Pakistani driver delivering the truck to your local supermarket, if he didn't do it, there'd be no food in it. But so what? I mean, it's the same could be said for any group. It's like saying, be grateful for Pakistani pilots. There's one plane flying into Edinburgh Airport right now. If that Pakistani pilot wasn't there, the plane would crash. So you just be grateful to Pakistanis and the contribution they're making in Scotland. I mean, that sort of argument is just nonsense. Totally nonsense. You can make the same sort of argument for any sort of group. If all left-handed people didn't work, society would collapse. Every organisation in Britain would suddenly be dysfunctional. Yeah, but so what? It's a really strange argument to make. But it's almost as though, well, it is as though Anas Sarwar is demanding special gratitude and special honour for the things that Pakistani people do. even though people from all sort of other races and backgrounds, whatever, do the same sort of things. Now, we would maybe argue that this is to counter racists, the people who say, for example, Pakistanis don't contribute anything. But does anyone really say that? Have you ever met anyone that believes anything remotely like that? I certainly haven't. The problem with this sort of talk is it's going to stir up resentment and mirror image claims from the native population as well. Because it seems as if, for the white, British, Scottish population, if they do work in the NHS, whatever, they're just fulfilling their responsibility. They're just, being normal. But when Pakistanis do these things, well, that's especially valuable. It's as though they're an army of volunteer charity workers, which obviously they're not. They're just the same as everybody else doing these jobs. See, this invites people of the white, British, Scottish population to respond in kind and say, well, if it wasn't for us, what wouldn't we have? Well, you could say we really wouldn't have an NHS, because at the time the NHS was brought into being, the population of Britain was almost exclusively, white British. Or we wouldn't have various cities, we wouldn't have a transport network, etc., etc. Do you really want to have people arguing that, trying to make that point? Look at what the white British people did. Look at what the white Scottish people did. Where would we be without them? Do you really want that? Not particularly. So I think Anna's been very divisive there, totally unnecessarily. So what are you saying about being a Scot first? Okay, great, but then put that into practice with what you say. What he's saying here is a sign, it's the opposite of integration. It's saying that we don't see ourselves just as part of the whole. We see ourselves as a special section that needs special treatment and special regard, special recognition.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every prison governor in Scotland, white. Every editor of a news organisation in Scotland, white. Why?
Now, put this in here. It's slightly irrelevant to what he's saying. I've always said that Anna Sarwar's speech, which is virtually the same as Humza Yousaf's infamous white speech that he gave in the Parliament, I'm sure they must have coordinated with each other. I used to say that Anna Sarwar's that we've just seen was less aggressive than Humza Yousaf's. But watching it there, I'm really not so sure. The way he's like thumping away on his desk there, and the way he says white as well, it does inflect a significant degree of disdain in it. But anyway, what I want to do is contrast this with what he's just been saying earlier on about basically there are more Pakistani doctors, a disproportionate number of doctors of Pakistani heritage. That's a very highly paid job. Does he complain about that? Should white people be complaining that they're underrepresented among doctors? So he's complaining about the lack of people of black and minority ethnic identity in these top jobs. Obviously, he's got the top job in Scottish Labour. So why is it that there are not many black minority ethnic people in these top jobs around Scotland? Well, for a start, they cherry pick top jobs where there are not these people in them. If they were, then they'd just fall off the list immediately. So there's cherry picking going on there. 6% of the population in Scotland is non-white, so that's about 1 in 17 people. So a lot of these roles, you would just statistically, you wouldn't expect there to be too many black and minority ethnic people represented in them. Head teachers, when I heard that, I thought that can't be true, and it's not true. Every head teacher of a school in Scotland is not white. So why are there fewer black and minority ethnic people in some of these other roles? Well, partly because maybe they're away being doctors instead. If you're relatively new to a country, you're not going to become the Lord Advocate the next week. Also, if you're new to a country, if the language is your second language, that's quite a restriction. That will limit some of the roles you could take on, and you might feel that you're not suitable for various roles because your language skill is not at a sufficiently high level, and that could be a perfectly reasonable thing. As generations pass, that will fade away. Another factor that can keep people in immigrant communities out of senior positions in society is cultural isolation. Is if a group tends to live or focus its life within a particular cultural group, then they'll tend to miss out on wider opportunities. So Anna Sarwar there, his basic implication is that he wants the government to do something. He wants some sort of special treatment for black and minority ethnic people, which I just think is wrong. There's a word for wanting to treat people of different races differently, and I think that word is racism.
Some might think when they see Pakistanis in politics and see Pakistanis in different political parties in Scotland and politics, that somehow that demonstrates a division in Pakistani communities. Actually, I think the opposite. I think it is a source of immense strength that we now have Pakistanis being represented in every mainstream political party in Scotland and across the UK.
So it says the fact that Pakistanis, etc., support different political parties, good. I agree with him. That's a good thing, because that is a sign of integration. But then he says we are stronger. So we, the Pakistanis, have got more influence. They're stronger in the political arena for the Pakistani cause, for the Pakistani agenda. I mean, what is it? I think he doesn't know. I'm not sure there is one. But how does this make sense if we don't know stronger for what? I don't think it's Islam. Looking around this dinner, there's more lipstick than burqas. So I don't think there's a particularly strong Islamic agenda to this. I think it's just common or garden sectarianism. We want people like us, people from our tribe, people from our group in positions of power, because that's obviously good because, well, they're like us, aren't they? That's just sectarianism, and it doesn't contribute anything positive to politics.
We will only truly get real power if we just have more Pakistanis sitting in council chambers and parliaments, but actually having more Pakistanis and South Asians sitting in the corridors of power making the decisions. And that's where I'll end tonight.
So it's saying here basically we need Pakistanis in government. I mean, translation, Anna Sarwar is basically saying, I'm the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, vote for me and I will potentially become First Minister of Scotland. So that's obviously what we want, isn't it? We want a Pakistani as First Minister, then we've got the power, so vote for me. That's what he's basically saying. This was before Humza Yousaf had his brief spell as First Minister, by the way. Again, so why does he want this power as a Pakistani? To promote what agenda? I mean, nothing. There's no sign of one at all. He just wants to be one of us rather than one of them. Just simple sectarianism, and it is divisive. It's the equivalent to someone saying, we need more Rangers fans. If only we could have more politicians who would openly state their support for Rangers instead of Celtic, that would be a real breakthrough in Scottish politics, wouldn't it? And others saying, it's great we've got Celtic fans in there. That's what we really need, more Celtic fans in the Scottish Parliament. Okay, what's the political difference? What policy differences? Do they have different ideas on how to run the country? No, it's just tribalism. We want power because they're our people, us, not them. It's unhelpful politically, and it's inflammatory.
It's to say the change is coming, and the days where our South Asian community are viewed as a vote bank or a curry bank are well and truly gone.
Now again, I agree with Anas here. I think it's great that the Pakistani community isn't seen as a block vote, shouldn't be seen as a block vote on sectarian grounds. That is good. And it's not seen as a block vote. I mean, the way he says it is as though the sort of infiltrators, maybe they're not the right word, but they've got involved with all parties, and so fine. What a curry bank is, I'm really not sure.
The days where South Asian communities get to lead political parties and get to lead countries is now upon us. In
translation, Anna Sarwar is saying, me, vote for me. What a win that would be, having a Pakistani First Minister, one of us. I mean, who cares what his policies are? Wouldn't that be brilliant?
The days when South Asian communities get to decide not just which school our children go to, but what they are taught in those schools is also coming.
Now this last bit's interesting, about what is taught in the schools. What's he talking about? I think he's talking about sex education, because that's quite a topic of discussion among Pakistanis in Scotland and among the Muslim community in general. So I think he's probably talking about sex education. Now, I was at the Eid festival in Innerleithen Park in Edinburgh a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and we were giving out our sex education leaflets, and the response was incredibly positive. Families looking at it and saying, this is really terrible. And a lot of them are saying, yes, I know, we're very concerned about this, Thanks for raising the issue. They're very appreciative of it. And then I saw someone who I recognised. It was Faisal Chowdhury, the Labour MSP. He was there at the refreshment stall, I don't know, dishing out some food or something. So I just went and said hello to him. I haven't met him before. He didn't know me. So I told him who I was. I said, we're talking about sex education. I gave him a leaflet. And he said, oh, yes, that's very concerning, isn't it? A lot of people are concerned about that. We really need to get this sorted out, don't we? Very definitely. That's what he says when he's surrounded by Muslims. When he goes into the parliament, totally the opposite. He was there having his picture taken with the LGBT inclusive education campaign, etc. So that's the trick he's trying to play. When he's with the Muslims, oh yes, I hear your concerns about sex education. Don't worry, I'll go and sort it out when I go back to that parliament on Tuesday. But totally disingenuous. Is Anna Sarwar playing the same game here? I know you're concerned about what's taught in schools. Leave it to me. When we get the power, we can do something about it. But he's actually got no intention whatsoever of making any change. I mean, this issue has been a hot topic in Scotland for years now. Have you heard Anna Sarwar make any noise about it, make any statement, make any comment, express any concern? Not a thing. I mean, it really is genius the way these politicians can string groups of people along and make people think that they're on their side and they're pursuing their agenda, listening to their concerns. But actually, they're not doing that at all. Now, I really do think that's what they're talking about, the sex education side, but it might be they're talking about Muslim schools, Muslim-specific schools. I don't really think that they are, but if they are, what do I think about that? Well, fundamentally, as a matter of principle, fine, absolutely fine. If there's groups of parents who want their children bringing up according to a particular set of values, then that is perfectly okay with me. Okay, if some aspects of those values are too far out of line with Western democratic values, then we might have some problems. But generally speaking, Muslim schools, fine. My concern with them is that they might in some areas, for example, become the Pakistani school as well, by default. And I think that's not so helpful. I think if you have a Christian school, that doesn't have any division along race, immigration sort of lines. It's just a cross-section of society, roughly. If you have a Muslim school, that will tend to be segregating by race as well, which is not so helpful, possibly. But in principle, Muslim schools, that's fine by me. Christian schools, too. So GB News was trying to present that this is some sort of Islamic agenda being pushed. I really don't see that. I don't think Anna Sarwar has got Sharia law at the back of his mind as an end point. So in contrast to what Anna Sarwar has been saying, well, not in contrast, just to draw a parallel with it, thinking about my situation as an English immigrant in Scotland, do I think to myself, when I'm First Minister, I'm going to be the first English First Minister of Scotland. That's going to be a really wonderful, fantastic, the first English heritage First Minister. And I'm going to have special policies for English immigrants, and I'm going to emphasise the vital role the people of English heritage play in Scotland. Would I be saying any of that? Not a bit of it. Not remotely. What I'd be saying is, right, I've got some ideas. I've got a vision for how to run Scotland better. These are the key issues. This is what we're going to do to make Scotland a better place for everybody. Isn't that what all politicians should be doing, whether they're from Pakistan or not? Surely it is. Right, how about as a Christian? Do I say, I want to be First Minister because then we'll have a Christian First Minister. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And a lot of Christians, sadly, they're in this mindset. We need to get more Christians into the Parliament. People who call themselves Christians. We're not concerned so much about what policies they have. We don't care about what they believe. We don't care about what they're going to do. Don't care whether or not they're going to challenge evils in society. It's if they're Christians. That's what really counts. And Christians have been trying this strategy for many years, and I think basically it doesn't work. So again, if I was speaking to a group of Christians, I wouldn't be saying, let's get Christians into that Parliament. I'd be saying, let's get people with the right views. Let's get the right policies. Let's try and get people who want to get the right thing done into Parliament. So, is Anna Sarwar a Muslim colonialist? Well, no, I don't see that. Is he sectarian in his approach to politics? Well, at least partly, yes. I think that's very unhelpful. I think it was a couple of years ago. Was it in Leicester? there were riots on the streets, basically, that were triggered by an India versus Pakistan cricket game that was going on. I mean, it's not too long before maybe India and Pakistan might be at war with each other. And how's that going to play out in the UK and Scotland? So I think this sectarian approach is dangerous, and it can lead to all sorts of problems. Now, if the Pakistani community want to have a dinner celebrating Pakistani culture and heritage or whatever else, then great. Anna Sarwar goes to it, no problem at all. Really good thing to do. If Pakistanis start talking about this is the way we want to gain power, well, not so good. Okay, hope that was interesting and fair. So do join the Scottish Family Party. There's a link below. And thanks for watching.